we'll go through these slides here this morning and give you a little bit of information from the point of view of the layout of the trainings and so forth, and then we'll take some questions. The framework of Chinese medicine, which is so profound, is that it includes disease healing, which is, if you think of the medicine from the societies and cultures that we live in today, the basis of medicine is disease. And everything about what we call health care is actually, shall we say, diagnostic and treatment oriented. And so you can't really do anything to support the individual in their well-being if they don't have a problem. Now, certainly there are more and more cases all the time of doctors and therapists who work from a health basis or a health recovery basis or a prevention basis. But largely this is unusual in our society today, whereas in Chinese medicine this whole array that we're looking at here is considered a part of the puzzle. So starting at the bottom and working up, the concept of transcendence and immortality seems strange and unusual to probably most healthcare practitioners in the Western world. But in practitioners of Chinese medicine, the concept of having an eternal self, which is called Shen, or spirit, in Chinese medicine, is very familiar. It's a part of the whole comprehensive system. And it is widely revered in Chinese medicine, the concept of transcendence, meaning to be able to have an awareness of your eternal self. And so when you have an awareness of your eternal self, you are aware of the part of yourself that cannot be harmed or cannot die. And that's the definition of immortality in the Chinese paradigm. And that's admissible. That's a part of the comprehensive system. And can a doctor treat you in that way? Probably not. But can a doctor inform you, or can a Qigong and Tai Chi teacher inform you? Because we're really talking about the domain of the Qigong and Tai Chi teacher here, as well as the Chinese doctor. And we as teachers are informers and inspirers, and transcendence and immortality, then moving to longevity and anti-aging. You know, maybe we can't stop the aging process, but what we can do is modify it. And there's a lot of data on this and information and research on it, and we won't go into the details now, but what an amazing body of information which has to do with having an influence on the DNA, particularly the telomeres, T-E-L-E-M-E-R-E-S, in the DNA. And we will be discussing that as a part of the training, of course, because our philosophy and theory portion of the training, as well as the learning to practice Qigong and Tai Chi portion of the training, and then learning to be a great teacher portion of the training, all weave together. So then, as you can see, wellness and health maximization are really probably where most Qigong and Tai Chi teachers operate. The conversation is about that with most of our students or clients. And then, of course, disease prevention and disease healing. So all five of these levels of the totality of medicine come together in the domain of the Qigong and Tai Chi teacher. How thrilling is that? the basis of Chinese medicine, the basis of the medicine of the Asians generally, in India as well, Ayurvedic medicine, in Ayurveda called prana, in Chinese medicine called qi, and here in the Western world called energy medicine, all based on a vitality that exists within our being. We're only beginning to understand how amazingly profound this is. And in our approach to training you as a teacher, we focus a lot on feeling the qi. Although it's important for you to understand and for you to be able to communicate to your students, it's not always that important for an individual to feel the qi until it's time for them. It's a very subtle aspect of our being, and it's not easy to be able to tell that we're having that experience because it's subtle, it's internal. But anyway, we teach you to teach others to feel the qi within themselves, to feel the qi around themselves, and to feel the qi of others. And of course, there's not only just the tactile sensation of qi, which would come through your hands or other body surface parts or internal sensing. There's also the being able to read the qi by being sensitive to subtle aspects of a person's expressiveness, how they're speaking, how they're looking, the sound of their voice, all these things. And so the energy basis of Chinese medicine is unfamiliar here in the Western world, and yet it's been a part of the medical system of these ancient cultures for so long that we don't even know what the date was when they started up. Some people say as much as 30, 40, 50,000 years, because human beings were in social situations even longer than that, 70,000 years. And of course they were always doing something to try to improve their well-being, including massage and movement and so forth. So in the history of the Western world, the watershed moment for the transition from believing that healthcare and medicine are about disease to believing that healthcare and medicine could be about well-being started in the 1990s. Of course, there have always been the homeopaths and the massage therapy community. It's always been around, the herbal community, the nutrition approach to things. But these were all sort of in a kind of state of repression, really, during the most of the 20th century. And in the 90s, the research piled up so high that it made sense for our society to pay attention. And one of the great watershed articles was written in collaboration with the Surgeon General at the time, whose name is C. Everett Koop. You can see 8 out of 9 causes of disease are preventable. That Surgeon General was a key author of this particular article, and it was probably the turning point article, which then contributed to a process that was happening in the early 90s, which was called Healthy People 2000. Now we're all the way up to Healthy People 2020, which has recently been published. The original document stated that over 70% of all disease is preventable. Since then, this number has been modified in future, in later versions of Healthy People. And so we can now say, with science behind us and the Department of Health and Human Services, that's the DHHS there, those agencies of our societies government, which are associated with healthcare, are now absolutely clear that at the very least 70% and probably even 85% of all disease is preventable. And of course, most of what prevention is behavior and has to do with decisions that we make. And this last one, up to 75% of all time lost in the workplace, is stress-related. This speaks to the fact that the choices that people make in terms of how they interpret stress and experience stress, the choices that people make in their lifestyle, their nutrition, their rest, their free time, and their activity, their physical activity, whether they do or don't have a meditation practice, whether they do or don't have a yoga practice, or whether they have a yoga practice and don't use it, whether they have a Qigong practice and do use it. These are all choices. So prevention is really about choice. And there's so much information now that suggests that we have choice, that it's really compelling. It's a compelling time. We here at the Institute of Integral Qigong and Tai Chi have the great honor of having published a review of the literature on, well, the title of it is A Comprehensive Review of Health Benefits of Qigong and Tai Chi. This was published in the American Journal of Health Promotion, which is probably the most respected journal of wellness and health promotion in the Western world. And this article is often referenced as the evidence base. You may or may not have picked up on the idea that all medicine, conventional medicine, complementary medicine, integrative medicine, it's all going in the direction of being what's called evidence-based. And the evidence base is basically the research. And so the Qigong and Tai Chi research evidence base used to be very diffuse. There were articles, research projects and articles written about them, many done in very respectable journals. What this article did is put everything in one place, and there's a huge chart of all the randomized controlled trials, and it's all included in this article, which is now, this evidence base has now been used in policy and program decisions. We are getting more and more evidence that Qigong and Tai Chi are showing up in community centers and YMCAs and school systems and so forth, and that's because the evidence base triggers policy and programs. Now, if you'd be interested in having a copy of this article, you'll be receiving email. You have been receiving email, and you will continue to receive email about our programs. And if you're interested in having a copy of this article, we can send that out to you. So turn one of those emails around and let us know that you want to have a copy of this article, and we will get that out to you. So the evidence that's included in this article, just to give you a little bit more texture, is that there were 77 research trials between 1992 and 2008 that were done with a control. And our society is very addicted to controlled trials. And so the only trials that appear in this article are randomized controlled trials. And you can see a lot more information on research at the IIQTC research page, the address for which is on the screen now. And if you go to iiqtc.org, over on the left-hand side, there's a navigation bar, and one of the clicks there is a research click, and that'll take you to this same page. How to say it, the magnitude of the research that has come up at this point is huge, it's very compelling. So it used to be that you would have to promote your teaching based on the fact that the Chinese have been doing this for 5,000, 10,000, 30,000 years, and it's tried and true. But we now have that document, and so it's very powerful. So then going on to the curriculum of the IIQTC, there are 3 levels in our teacher training. And in the first level, the one that's coming up soon, and we will be answering questions on specifically here today, this is some of the curriculum of that training. And so we teach you a multitude of different Qigong and Tai Chi forms. And this is enough Qigong to entertain classes for for a lifetime. And it is not critical that by the end of level 1 you know all of this very, very well. As you know, there's a line that says, teach what you aspire to learn. And so our teaching curriculum, training curriculum for training teachers, is to give you, the trainee, all the grace and all the time you need to be able to take this stuff in and process it and bring it to your classes. The thing that's probably the hardest to imagine in your own mind is to be able to actually present all of this material. Well, the good news is the average person couldn't take all this in. And so one of the things that we say is not how much can you give the class, but how well can you read the class to know what they want and what they need. And what you'll find is that the amount of material that you'll be sharing with most classes is pretty small, because a little tiny bit of Qigong transmitted to a group of people in an entertaining and fun and easy sort of way is extremely powerful in triggering the Qigong state. But we give you a whole array of traditional resources, contemporary resources, and as you can see, we also focus on both philosophy and physiology. So we're going to be talking about theory as well as the knowledge base, as well as philosophical insights. It's a very rich body of information. And then in level 2, we go on to Tai Chi. And Tai Chi is, to one extent, Tai Chi and Qigong are both forms of Qigong. And to another extent, Tai Chi is a specialized form of Qigong that, in the context of healing, personal transformation, disease prevention, and so forth, it's a very powerful kind of mind-body practice. This Tai Chi has a different benefit, and I'll just tell you very super briefly. In most forms of Qigong, which are initiated bilaterally, meaning that your right hand and your left hand are doing the same thing, often you're sitting or you may be standing, and so the complexity of engaging the feet is low. And so bilateral movement done in a deeply relaxed state with little complexity having to do with coordinating the feet and the hands leads to a certain brain state or a certain state of the nervous system. Now in Tai Chi is probably one of the most profound brain plasticity maximization methodologies that exist in the entire history of the human race. And through our integral Tai Chi curriculum, we teach you what is called the integral Tai Chi teaching method. And it's a very powerful approach to teaching Tai Chi. And in fact, many of our graduates were actually Tai Chi teachers before they came to this course, this training course. And one of the things that they say is that how I teach Tai Chi changed so much, and the extent to which people stay in my classes is so different than it was before. It's amazing. And it has a lot to do with teaching methodologies. So in other words, there is the whole idea of the beautiful tradition of Tai Chi, which we honor at the IIQTC deeply and sincerely. And then as a second topic, there's the whole concept of how to teach Tai Chi, which is pretty darn interesting. And of course, teaching methodologies from China around the 14th century may or may not be the most efficient way to communicate with people in the modern Western world. And given the fact that most of our graduates are from North and South America, Europe, and of course the United States, we end up with mostly European background people in our classes. And so the whole concept of how to teach is so important. Now, in the integral Tai Chi curriculum, we have a phased approach. We work with a very small number of movements to begin with. But the power about that is that to learn and utilize the basic principles of Tai Chi doesn't require a lot of movements, because those principles are embedded into every movement. And so with as few as 5 gestures that include both the hands and the feet, we're really rewiring the brain and understanding the baseline principles of Tai Chi. And so it's a very powerful process. And then our level 3 is a sort of a distillation of everything, but at the same time, as we're reviewing levels 1 and level 2, we're going on to what's called alchemy. And alchemy is that highest level. Remember the earlier slides when we were talking about longevity, anti-aging, immortality, and transcendence? Alchemy is the golden, the highest level, the most refined. You could call it spiritual Qigong, you could call it transformational Qigong. And so through levels 1, 2, and 3, there is so much knowledge, information, practice, and support. And in that third level, we review everything at the same time as going into the depths of alchemy. It's just an amazing experience. So who are our graduates and where are they teaching? So I'm just going to zoom down through these lists. We've trained people who come from every profession, and doctors, nurses, here we go, doctors, nurses, social workers, therapists, former corporate employees, bankers, insurance brokers, real estate people, academicians, school teachers, carpenters, soldiers, faith ministry leaders, yoga teachers, traditional Tai Chi teachers, fitness instructors, and more. And then where are they teaching? Now that they have done their training, where are they teaching? And hospitals, clinics, spas, schools, corporations, yoga centers, universities, faith institutions, senior centers, community centers, prisons, the military and Veterans Administration, public malls, libraries, office complexes, country clubs, retirement centers, and more. One other one that comes to mind right away is addiction recovery programs. Of course, there are many hospitals now have integrative medicine programs with a strong mind-body component. So it's really an exciting time, and the research just keeps pouring forward. It's just amazing. The American College of Sports Medicine just released its most recent report, and Qigong and Tai Chi are way at the top of the list in terms of the kinds of activities that are starting to show up in fitness centers. So the opportunity is rich, the curriculum is rich, and so let's go on to some of your thoughts and questions and insights perhaps. Just let me note here briefly that we have a YouTube channel which you can get to very easily, and that Feel the Chi is my personal site. And then if you go to Facebook, IIQTC, if you're open to liking us, everybody wants to be liked these days, so that would be great. And then the curriculum and the calendar where you're going to get your information about the upcoming trainings is at iiqtc.org. Thank you so much. And Josie, if you're ready to take some questions, I think we're there.
All right, excellent. Thank you. It's great to hear that the art and science of Tai Chi and Qigong really have this very profound, very large effect on life, and the research definitely reflects that, and the magnitude of the period, right? The people who come to these trainings really reflects that as well. So yes, we do have questions, and we have a range of questions here. We can start with, first question is about age requirements and experience. That may have been answered a little bit, but you want to speak to that, Dr. Roger?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Well, I love this question because people say, well, I'm sure I must need to have some sort of prerequisites and background. And the answer there is actually no. And it may seem a little counterintuitive, but you do not have to be a doctor, you do not have to be a nurse, you do not have to be a therapist or a fitness instructor or a yoga teacher or anything. We've found that it isn't about what your background, what really emerges as the power, the center of power in this is sincerity and enthusiasm. So if you feel yourself listening to this information, feeling sincerely engaged and enthusiastic, you're in. And some of the most amazing teachers that we have, well, I'll tell you, I'll give you an example. One of them is a Presbyterian minister, and this is one of our graduates who has she has a church, or she's had a church, and she works in churches as a minister, and she has found the connection between the faith side of life and Qigong and Tai Chi, and she's a very, very popular teacher. She's so full of energy, it's just amazing. So she is a perfect example of someone who doesn't particularly come from the healthcare background or the fitness background or the therapy background, who just is like a duck in water with this. Now, in terms of age, certainly very, very young people are probably just not going to be inclined to get into a profession. They're still in grade school. We do have people who bring their children to these events. Occasionally the husband or the wife comes as the trainee, and the spouse comes with the children, and they just go for walks in the woods, depending where we are, level 1, 2, or 3. Some of our levels happen here in Santa Barbara, so they can go to the beach. Now, in terms of the other end, well, at what age do people often come in? On the younger side, we have had people in our trainings who are still in college and find that this is just a profound body of knowledge. They weave it into their life. They share it with their buddies at college. They do research papers on it. And so that's the younger side. And we have quite a few people in their 20s who have graduated from these programs. On the older side, we have people who are in their 80s. And I just don't think there's a limit. And in terms of the, you know, a person might say, well, you know, I'm old enough that I just don't want to do anything new. But then just the other day, there was an 80-year-old gentleman in one of our classes who was saying, this is going to be perfect for my pals, buddies, people that I know. They already keep saying, you know, how do you stay so well? And he does yoga and meditation. Says, this Qigong, this is perfect because it's so easy, so flow-oriented. He says, he said something like, my fans are going to love this. So I don't think there's a limit in terms of the age. And even in terms of applying Qigong, we know that there's research that shows that people who do Qigong have a different kind of conclusion in their life. And that's a compelling topic that we won't talk more about now, but well, I'll give you the line from one of the bits of research. It was written by a Chinese person who was translating Chinese into English, so it sounds a little unusual. It says, even the unsurvivors found Qigong a positive euthanasia method, meaning that to use Qigong in the final term of our life, need less drugs, experience less trauma about the loss of our access to the body. And so this is a really, really powerful body of information that I think has applications. And by the way, I just got a little film clip from a person who's a kindergarten teacher who's one of our graduates doing Qigong with tiny little children in their classroom. Just amazing. So it's pretty wide open.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Yanka. That was wonderful. So next question is about practice. And so we have a couple of people out there who are practicing already, been taking Tai Chi classes, and wanting some advice about practice, frequency of practice. We've got a question about that. We got also a question about increasing a sense of energy flow during practice.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, and then a third question about that, so I don't know if you can combine the answer, is memorizing forms. Any advice about, okay, so three things: memorizing forms, practice in general, and then practicing so that there's energy flow.
Yeah, so let's start with memorizing forms. First thing is, it's not important to do it correctly. There's a lot of people who will tell you different, and I apologize if someone has told you how important it is to do it correctly. Certainly, if you were in a battle, you would want to be well trained and applying the principles at the highest level of efficiency. But the battle that we're in is really with stress, and one of the highest, strongest stressors is believing that you have to get it right. And just think to yourself, you know, how much better do I feel when I hear somebody saying, enjoy this, it's going to benefit you. And if you can't quite remember the order, it doesn't matter. And so that's the most important answer to the question of memorizing. Now the other neat answer to this is spontaneous Qigong. Spontaneous Qigong is doing the three mindful focus points: the body practice, the breath practice, and the mind practice in a spontaneous way. So could you put on some music and just let it flow? And so now there's nothing to remember. Now the last thing, and we teach you to teach spontaneous Qigong as a part of our curriculum. And remember, this is a webinar about teacher training. So I want to just keep reflecting on the fact that we're going to help the trainee to understand how to teach so that the students don't get nervous about the fact that they can't remember. This is huge. And it doesn't have to do with people who can't remember. It has to do with everybody. Everybody's allowed to have this be fun and easy and accessible and not have to remember. But then, of course, when you do remember, it's great. And so the last thing is that through practice regarding memory, remembering the forms, through practice, you will remember. And so the most important thing is the practice. So if we can do the practice in a context where we're not judging ourselves for the fact that we can't remember, then we're going to do the practice and enjoy ourselves, and that's going to contribute to the remembering. Now, in terms of implementing practice in our lives, like when to do it, how much to do it, and so forth, the first thing that's really important about this is that when you graduate from high school or college, there's always somebody who gives a speech called the commencement speech. And in the commencement speech, it is always stated that now that you're graduating, it's not the end, it's the beginning. And that you'll spend the rest of your life cultivating bodies of knowledge, learning new things, and sharing them with others. So practice has to do with pursuing Qigong and Tai Chi in such a way that feels fun, interesting, comfortable, compelling. So if the expected answer is, well, you should do it a certain amount of time and you should do it in a certain way and all of that, and we actually at the IIQTC have just finally figured out, and this took quite some time before we're absolutely clear on this, is that how much you practice and when you practice matters less than if you are in fact engaged in the practice when you do practice. So one of the answers to the question of how often and how long should I practice is whenever you feel like you can actually become engaged for as long as you are engaged. Now this seems a little random, and a lot of people think, oh well, I don't understand that, and so I just get distressed and I probably won't practice at all. So it really matters person to person, because some people like to be liberated in their practice and some people like to be more regimented in their practice. One of the things that we say is practice someplace where you like to. Now, if some people have a place in their home, some people have a place in their yard or their patio, or if it's a condo or something like that. Some people have a place near. Like for me, I have a place that's near my house, and then I have a place that's a run. And so when I have time, I run to the place where I can run to, and it's combining Asian Qigong and Tai Chi with contemporary aerobic, heart increasing, etc. And I like that. You know, I'm a contemporary person. I do exercises that build muscle. At the same time, I do exercises that build endurance, and at the same time, I do exercise or practices like Qigong and Tai Chi that build the brain and the nervous system and my capacity to relax and meditate. So it's really not, let's see, I don't want to say that it's not a good question, because every question is a great question, because it comes from a sincere questioner. But if we were to ask the question differently, we would say, how can we practice in such a way that it's the most effective? And the answer to that is to learn about yourself, learn about your calendar, and find a way to be able to bring your discipline into a relationship with your creativity and create a set of practices from anywhere, whatever set of practices you want, including ones you can't remember the order of, and then practice them sincerely with enthusiasm and in an engaged sort of way. Then the last question is the development of energy, the capacity to sense the energy. And this is really a good question. And of course, practice makes perfect, right? That's what Grandma said. And so my experience is that when people feel the energy the first time, there's two people. One is a person who says, "Oh my gosh, that was amazing." And it's kind of like they never did it before. And you think, wow, they really picked that up fast. And the other person is someone who says, you know, I love the idea, but I'm not feeling it. Now, what's really amazing, wonderful, and awesome is that both of them are fine. So feeling the energy is entertaining. Feeling the energy is fun. Feeling the energy can lead to higher levels of awareness. But feeling the energy is not necessary to get the benefit from Qigong and Tai Chi. And this is huge. So if you happen to be the first person and you're feeling the energy, it's great. If you happen to be the second person and you're feeling the energy, you're not feeling the energy, that's also great. Because it doesn't matter if you feel the energy to get the benefit of Qigong. Now some people will say, but I feel more enthusiastic and more engaged if I feel the energy. Well, okay, that's perfect. If you say, if I can't feel the energy, I'm not going to do this, that's a tragedy. That's a tragedy. And so my encouragement is through the practice over time, starting whenever it does, you know, later today, next week, in 3 weeks, in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years. Doesn't matter, because the influence of the practice on the human function is always the highest for a person who's engaged in the process. And feeling the energy is not required to be engaged. And over time, through the practice, sensitivity will increase because focus allows us to discriminate greater detail. So just think to yourself, you're looking at a lawn and it's got a billion blades of grass. But then you say to yourself, I want to see some blades of grass more clearly. So now you come closer, now you're focusing, you see some blades of grass. Then you say to yourself, I want to see one, I'm going to select one blade of grass. And then you have the capacity to focus down to one blade of grass. Over time, with the Qi, it's the same thing. It's an amorphous, almost impossible to understand concept. Sensorily, it's not coming through. And then later, through the development of focus, be able to hone in a little closer. And then eventually, most people actually do have a sensation of the Qi. And by the way, it's not always the same. So you can't just say, I should feel this, and track it. That doesn't work. What works is to turn your attention inward and pay attention to what's happening. And you do that day after day, or if not day after day, week after week. And over time, the capacity to get to the level of focus where the always present energy is something that you can now feel. Josie, thank you. Great questions.
Yeah, I think we have time for 2 more. All right, so I got a heavy theory question, and then I have a practical question. So how about if we go to the theory question first, and then we'll take care of the practical in a few moments. So theory question is about doing Tai Chi as a martial art versus doing Tai Chi for health. And so the question is, which one's better, or, so if you can speak to that, doing Tai Chi as a martial art versus
Sure.
doing Tai Chi for health.
Yeah, and just for the fun of it, we'll go big picture philosophical, and then we'll come down to more of the local. Uh, the words Tai, which is in Chinese, a word is called a character. Tai means huge. And the word Ji or Qi means, and by the way, this is not the Qi word that some people call energy. That's Qi. And what we're saying in Tai Chi is Ji. And that's in the Mandarin. And so Ji or Qi means ultimate. So Tai Chi means immense, ultimate. Now, as you can see, that is a big meta-level concept. And so if you name something after that, and that's exactly what Tai Chi the martial art is, and it's exactly what the Tai Chi the health maximization practice is that these are methodologies or practices which are named after the immense ultimate, whatever that is. And I won't take the time to go into the details of what that is here today, except to say that Tai Chi explains in Chinese philosophy and in Chinese medicine and in Chinese science the moment of the Big Bang, when the universe went from the unity into the duality and the contrast of opposites like space and substance, or up and down, or hot and cold, wet and dry. That's Tai Chi means the world wherein the opposites define the nature of things, the complementarity of opposites. So then, when you name something after something big like that, it's probably because the thing that you're naming, you want it to have a bigness. So the immense ultimate health practice of Tai Chi is amazing, and I don't even know what to say here, because amazing is already kind of like not enough to stay. But amazing is one of our bigger words, so we'll just leave it there. And anybody of any age can practice Tai Chi for health and stress management and disease prevention. There are no limits. It's absolutely fun, interesting, and compelling. And we teach people how to teach Tai Chi in that way. Now, Tai Chi, as it is applied as a martial art, actually has another word associated with it, and that is the word Tren. It's a funny sounding word, Tren. And in the Mandarin, it's spelled in Roman letters, Q-U-A-N. So Tai Chi Tren means martial application of Tai Chi. So it's taking the big concept of the immense ultimate and defining it as a martial art, Tai Chi Chuan. And so there's so many different kinds of Tai Chi Chuan, and many traditional family forms, the Chen, the Yang, the Sun, the Wu, and others. As one of my favorite teachers was Chang, and he was his most colorful name was the Leaping Butterfly Master, and he developed a kind of Tai Chi Chuan, which is gorgeous and linked to some extent to the Yang family. So there's really no way to say which one is better, because they're completely for different things. Both of them are named after a huge cosmic concept. As the cosmic concept comes down into health and well-being and disease prevention, of course it's going to be different than when that cosmic concept comes down into the martial arts. Tai Chi Chuan is Kung Fu. It's a kind of Kung Fu. And I love Kung Fu. So for me, these differentiations that people talk about regarding Tai Chi are often done by people who haven't really thought it through very well. And particularly there are some teachers who teach that if you don't do this a certain way, then there's something wrong with you, or that you'll never get any benefit. And none of that makes any sense to me. I've been to China 8 times, been a Chinese doctor for 40 years, written a couple of books, taught a lot of people to teach Qigong and Tai Chi, taught a lot of people, thousands of people, to practice Qigong and Tai Chi. And the question, which one is better, just doesn't make any sense, because they have different, and I'm not, I'm not chastising the questioner, because if you go on the internet, you're going to get a lot of odd information about how you should be thinking. And so, this is just my opinion, and so I'm not suggesting that you should take on my answer as the new right answer. It's just my answer. And Tai Chi is a big, big, big concept, and when it's applied to the body moving in certain ways, it's still a huge, glorious concept. Great question, Josie. I love that one.
Yeah, I like that one too. Okay, so we have, I said we had time for another question, but we might not. It's a very practical question, which I think we might be able to answer in 30 seconds. So here goes. What happens after training? Is there continuing education?
There is. We have programs that go in the direction of assisting and leadership, which eventually becomes being a trainer. We also have reunions. We just, on the November 11th, 2011, 11-11-11, we celebrated the number one, oneness, unity, and we have 300 graduates, and there were over 50 of those graduates came to California to that event. Not every reunion happens in California. We have advanced trainings in numerous areas. We're working with longer forms of Tai Chi. We work with integral energetics, which is has to do with transmitting Qi to others. We work with a kind of alchemy, which is called primordial Qigong. Some of these courses are actually available to the public, but we train you, the graduate of the teacher training program, we train you to be a teacher of that, so that the 200 hours gives you a broad integral basis. Then if you want to teach some of the more highly refined postgraduate, I guess we could say, postgraduate curriculum, then we train you in that and certify you in that. So we have actually a very rich follow-up. We also have a forum that's on the web, and our graduates communicate through that forum. Business, theory, philosophy, physics, transcendental topics, practical topics. And we also have a students and graduates section on the website that's exclusive to the graduates for how to build your business, and there's slide presentations there and so forth. So this is, when a person signs up to go through our 3 levels, that program itself is rich, but the value that's added by being a part of the professional community and all the follow-up activities that we have, it's actually an amazing deal for what you end up being able to have access to.
Indeed. Okay, thank you. And just to reiterate and bring your attention back to the screen, I'm just going to go over a few points here for you in the last minute and a half that remains of our time together. And just going through, remembering that the 200-hour teacher training, that is the training that happens just before the continuing education that Dr. Iganka just spoke about, teacher level 1, Qigong Community Practice Leader is the first one. Teacher level 2, Tai Chi Community Practice Leader is the second one. And then teacher level 3, Tai Chi Qigong teacher with an emphasis on alchemy. All these programs are approximately 7 days long, and so they're occurring in segments throughout the year. You could theoretically do your training in a year if you are energetic and willing to do that. By design, there's time in between the sessions so that you can practice and get ready for this one. Teach right away. So after coming to level 1, you are certified to lead practice as Qigong Community Practice Leader, and some people really take advantage of that right away. They start teaching. There have been a few instances where people sign up for the training and they actually get a job right before they learn how to do the practices. They come to the training, learn how to do the practices, and then immediately start work at a hospital in one instance and at the YMCA at another instance. So definitely this is something that we strongly encourage you to use and share with others right away. Just so you know that there are spaces left, and you are strongly encouraged to take a look at level 1, explore it a little bit. You can find it at our IIQTC.org calendar section. And then, of course, you'll get, as follow-up for this presentation today, you will also get links to that information. Into some concluding remarks here.
Thank you, Josie. Thank you so much. Well, I'm so excited about this next level 1 because we've got a really nice group of people who are already enrolled, and the facility that we use can accommodate a few more. So we're looking forward to, well, meeting you. And if you have questions, of course, let us know by turning around those emails. And I guess just kind of wrapping up with the big picture is that what we see is that the society that we live in is realizing that it costs too much to treat preventable diseases. It costs too much to treat preventable diseases. And we can actually give ourselves a financial bailout by just learning how to make better decisions in our lives. And of course, one of the most important decisions is to make the decision to have a practice of health maximization, which is what Qigong and Tai Chi is. And these kinds of practices are now proliferating into universities, school systems, hospitals, social service, the military. We recently did a training for the Veterans Administration. But there is just a lot of action going on here. So the time, it's always been a good time because this is such a unique and wonderful profession to be in. But the time is now even more compelling because of the pressures in our society, financial and otherwise. And as people are getting older, they want to have a long, healthy life. I'm so sorry about that. Have a long, healthy life. And this is one of the ways to do it. And these 300 plus graduates that I know so far are such amazing people. You will be, I think, really, really pleasantly surprised as you realize who you're with when you get to your level 1, and then that what caliber of a professional community you're a part of when you've graduated from level 3. I look forward to meeting you anytime, sooner, later. Josie, thank you so much again and again for your great service.
You're very welcome. For Dr. Roger Yanka, for the Institute of Integral Qigong let me try that again. For the Institute of Integral Qigong and Tai Chi, I'm Josie Weaver. Thank you for coming to our event. Bye now.